So a lot of you guys have been asking me on how to build better or become a better builder in general. So today, I'll show you something that I use to help me build better. Also, before this video starts, I made a TikTok. You should follow it. It's just new. I had an old one, but I changed my username on Twitter, so I changed it there too. But I still have the old one. But I really just follow my new one. Also, if you don't follow my Twitter or Instagram, follow them. My Twitter's better. I'm more active there. So if you want me to see your builds, tag me on Twitter. I'm sure to see it. I might not interact, but I'll see most of the builds sent there. But on Instagram, I'm not as active there, so I might not see your builds. So yeah. Have you ever wondered that in my speed builds, things just magically go in place together? Well, sometimes that is done with the help of the undo trick. So what is the undo trick, you might ask? It is basically a technique where you can bypass various placement restrictions by undoing and quickly placing an object. This technique does require advanced placement and sometimes even multiple floors or basements depending on what you want to achieve. Though this is not a surefire way to improve your builds, it is one of the tricks I use to improve my building experience and to build quicker in general. So there's a lot of different ways you can use the undo trick. First is its main use, which is basically placing stuff easier while ignoring collision. You need advanced placement for this. What I mean about this is sometimes items are hard to place on top of each other or at the same spot. So, for example, if I want to place this in table, I can just place it together easily like that. But if it's something harder, let's say this table, it's hard to put it underneath, right? So what you want to do is, first, place your two items, then place one of them in the desired spot. I want to place this here, so I'll place it here. Then I'll move the item out. Then I'll hover. I'll click this, then move it above here, but don't place it yet. You'll just hover it. Then you can rotate it if you want. Then undo. Then shortly after, before this even goes back, you need to place it like that. Sometimes you can hold click like this, and you can rotate it while it's there, and you can still place it like that. One thing to note is make sure your last two moves or last move is this moving away from your desired spot. So if you undo, like imagine if I move this away, then move this. If I undo here, it will undo a different move, not this one. So you can really do a lot with this trick, but it's not really the most useful way you can use this technique. So what I like to do with that way, to do custom designs for windows and doors. For windows, since now you can resize, it's not as difficult to do this stuff. But if you want two windows overlapping, you can just do the undo trick. You can place them together. It's useful on uniquely shaped objects, not rectangular ones. Like that. It's a cool design. Might use it for build. And especially it's really great on doors, so you can have custom door frames, which you can do with basic shapes, but it's still useful for people who don't really like using those. So if I place this door here, then get the window frame. What's popular is using round or what do you call them? Octagonal frames for this. Then you just do the undo. It's off-centered. Do the undo, then there. You have a circular door which you can use. There's a lot of ways you can do this. I'll show some examples on where I use this technique. So let me show you where I use this trick on some of my builds. It's loading right now. So mainly on this bed, since there's a lot of shapes, and especially large ones, it's hard to stack them on top of each other. So doing that trick will help you place large items in together really easily. It helps save on plot data since you use less shapes rather than 3 different ones for the sides and top. You just use one huge one. It's not that big of a difference if you're doing a small build, but when you're doing a larger build or something that has multiple things on it, it really helps save plot data. What else? Oh, on this windows, before the update, it was once a large window, then this square one with a trick. So if I want shutters, I can just shutter the top one like on default, then just put the curtains below. That's about it. I used it also on this bed for the mattress and the blanket. Then that's about it. I also used it on this bed, I think. It's really a useful way to build easier. You can stack items on top of each other. I used it on this pool. It's really helpful to layer transparent blocks so the water is much more realistic. So this trick is the one I used this hack the most for. You can see me use it a lot on a build I would show you. So this one is clonable floating items. I'll show you how to do it. It's pretty much the same. I'll stack these tables. Then it's great. So I'll paint one red and so it's much easier to understand. So this technique is much more difficult than the one I showed you before because if you want it to be precise, you have to do much more tinkering since you have to stack it on top of each other. So for example, if I want this to, when I clone it, it would stay on this elevation. I have to adjust it so that the height is actually flat. How you do this trick is pretty much the same, but other than moving the item out of the way, you move it to the place where you want the second item to be on top of. So I'll show you. So basically, this is where you want the item to be, like under whatever you want the item floating on top of, or anywhere else. Just keep in mind that where the bottom item is where you'll place it, and the position of the item on top is dependent on where the item on the bottom is. So if you want to hide it, you can just place it somewhere discreet or somewhere else you want to place it on. So what you want to do is place this at the bottom, then place this at the top. You will undo this move. So before that, you'll place this item on. You can hold, place this item on, then undo, then release. You can, as I said before, you can click, then hold, then undo, or undo then click at the same time. It's much easier this way, but sometimes it doesn't work depending on what you're doing. But as you can see, it's floating, but it's attached to the red crate. So if you clone it, it's also clones the one above. This is really useful in light fixtures if you want them clonable and they're custom. and especially on custom trees that use compact bushes or gardening items. So I want to show you. So I'll first place a tree, the tree, and use so imagine a tree like that. So what you want is to grab a dirt pile and place it at the base of the tree. I have to move this away. And then from the top down, you would do this what you did with this crate and the green crate, but the red crate is now this dirt pile. So you place the bush away first, then place the dirt pile where the bush was, then click, hold, undo. Now it's attached, you can see. Then you can move further down. So you have this tree top now. Then you can place the bare tree at the bottom. Oh wait, you can't. You can use another bare tree if you want. And you can also use... You can clone out this. And now you can do this. And if you want to clone it, you can just stamp tool, which is really helpful since it's a lot of items. Just note that if you're only doing one tree, I don't recommend doing this since you'll waste a lot of time, and the time you spend making this clonable isn't really useful since you'll only use one of the trees. So if you want, you can just place a tree, place the leaves, place it around, like so. For items you want stuff like bushes to place on top of, you can't do it with normal placemats and stuff. Because on most items, basic shapes, decor, you can use placemat, which is what I use most of the time. Like this. See? It's really helpful. And with this, you can easily make circles too, since they're all from the same point. You can do circles easily with doing that trick. For the builds, I use this technique. There's a lot. So as you can see, you can still make good builds. It's not really an essential per se to making good builds, but it helps me save a lot of time rather than doing multiple custom trees. I can just use one, then use it all over again. I'll show you some of the builds I use it with. I'll start with this one since it's my latest build. I really used it only for one thing, which is this couch. Nope, wrong. The other one. This one. As you can see, it's like floating on placemats. That's what I did with this one. But you can also use, like, what's this here? You can also use shapes, but it's much more expensive. And I really didn't want to waste money on that, so I just used the floating trick. That's also one of the reasons why I use it. It's really helpful since it's not a trick that really costs money. Like floating stuff to make it clonable. It's really just a trick. Another build this one really relies on the undo trick. I'll show you. This is one of my proudest builds because like almost all of it's clonable other than stuff with walls. So here's the Pantheon. The tour of it is in my channel already. It's been out. One of my favorite builds since I love the dome. Anyway, as you can see, in this build, almost all of the roof, all of the building, is placed on top of this single placemat. It's gonna lag. No. Look. Oh, the lag. Look, it's all on the placemat, which is even the roof and some of the walls and pillars are all on the placemat. This really uses the undo trick. I'll show why. It's mainly because this roof are modules. Like these parts are just one thing cloned again and again. Oh, this is a pillar. So like this pillar, it's just cloned all around. And I made some changes to the different ones with colors or the statues in them. Let me get is this a roof one? No, this is the top one. It's also clonable. So I just did this once, then spun it around. And you can see how much time I saved doing this trick. Let me find it. This one? Oh, this one. You can see this one is just part of the dome, but it's just the same part spun around. So imagine doing this 16 times rather than once. You can see how much time you can save, how much easier it can be if you did this trick. So yeah, so this trick is not really that useful if you're not a hardcore builder, but if you want to get better at building, you should invest your time spending it on much more important parts of the build rather than tedious parts you can really make easier. Because imagine spending time on parts you really want and not wasting time making multiple custom trees when you can do it just once, then clone it over and over again. It's not really bad to do custom trees, but just like using regular trees, you can just rotate them so they're less noticeable as the same thing. This is a bad example. I think I didn't rotate the trees here. But anyway, my point still stands. You can spend your time doing much more important parts rather than doing multiple of the same. Like imagine if I just did this pillar over and over again. I'd waste so much time and they all just look the same. Like also this part. So saving time on building is really helpful, especially if you don't get much screen time. So I hope you enjoyed the video. If you like it, make sure to like and please subscribe. I'll post more videos. My video this Saturday is another big build. I posted it on Twitter already, but I never managed to edit the tour because I was having trouble saying stuff about it. But it'll be out on Saturday. So if you have any questions, you can just comment down below. And so, goodbye.